So, I'm finishing school now and I'm trying to learn all about CG lighting. My degree will be over in summer, which means I've spent 4 years learning 3D in Maya. And we are here because my personal obsession these past few years has been to translate all the workflows I've been taught to Blender. And this video is about the most exciting thing I discovered, and it's something I thought was impossible to do in Cycles: light decays. But first of all, what are light decays? It turns out that to make your renders be exactly the images you want them to, especially when working with very stylized stuff, you may need control over your lights that goes beyond realism. And it's not often that you need to bend physics, but not being able to do so is a deal breaker for lots of artists when considering working with Blender. And light decays are a tool that helps us do exactly that. In lighting for animation, we use them to mask out the beginning and/or end of a light. In Maya, we have controls over whether if we use the masks or not and how abrupt these transitions are. And this can be used, for example, to make your light shine brighter at the focus point of the image, make lights fade as they approach the end of the frame to help vignetting, and to make volumetrics have cleaner shapes, amongst lots of other things. Now let me clarify, this isn't realistic by any means, but to make stylized cartoony renders, we may need to take physics and bin it in favor of expressivity and such, of course. For example, when designing characters, we make models with big, non-realistic eyes to emote more, right? So when doing our lighting work, why shouldn't we be able to bend reality the same way? So how can we control light decays in Blender? First of all, disclaimer. I'm building on top of my light nodes video, so I strongly recommend that you check that one out if you haven't already. Now, ingredients! Our beloved light path node, the incredibly underrated map range node, a simple color ramp, and a value and math node just to add flavor. For this demonstration, I'm using a point light on a plane. Every square in the checker pattern is 1 square meter. To start, I want to remind you of how we work with the strength setting. The original strength is 1, the basic quadratic decay, and we make masks that multiply the base strength. Just for the sake of clarity, I will multiply the base with the masks we are going to create with the light path node. We're going to use the ray length output that works by giving us a value at a certain point of the ray for how long the ray has traveled so far, in units, meters by default. We're going to control this with a color ramp. And you see we're masking parts of the light ray, which is super cool, but we only have control over what happens in the first meter of the ray, because color ramps only work with values between 0 and 1. And that's when the map range node comes in handy. The map range node helps us squeeze any range we give it between 0 and 1. So the first two values of the map range node set the range we have influence over, and the color ramp serves to mask or not the beginning or end of said range. And it just works! And plus, since it's a color ramp, we can create as many points as we want, which is a why would you, but it's something that Blender can and Maya can't, as far as I know. And by the way, now that I mentioned, there's lots of things that I don't know. I'm here to learn, as all of you, and so I encourage you to comment if I missed out on something, and to check the description, because there I will add a section with knowledge shared by you that I didn't know at the time of making the video. And speaking of things that I don't know why you would use this next node, the light fall-off node. It basically transforms the decay of the light from quadratic to linear or constant, so I guess you can make your decay absolutely by hand now? Related to decays, but useless, as far as I know. So bonus points to anybody who can mention an actual scenario where using this would make sense. And the last thing to know about decays, for all you Eevee lovers. In a project that I had to use Eevee for, I found that you could fake a very primitive version of this effect by using the custom distance setting. And that's it. If you wanted to learn all about light decays in Blender, that's it for you. You can go on with your business. But for all you node nerds, there's lots of things we can improve over this setup. The most important issue I had with this is the fact that I couldn't expose the values of the color ramp easily on a node group. And making a node group to me is essential because I want to reuse this setup quickly for any light I want to. And then there's the fact that setting the influence range and then making the masks is not the most intuitive thing ever, especially when compared to Maya's approach. So here's the solution that I found. We create two different map range nodes. The first will set the start mask and the second the end mask. For this demonstration, I will have my light start emitting at 0.8 meters, have full intensity at 1 meter, start artificially decaying at 2 meters, and stop emitting light at 2.2 meters. If we connect the first two values to the from min and from max sockets of the map range node, they get squeezed into this clamped gradient that it's perfect to mask the original strength via multiplication. And nice! And for the end we do the same, but we notice it's acting as a beginning mask, not as an end. That's because we need the end mask to begin at 1, full strength, and end at 0. And now it works! The only thing we need now is to be able to switch these masks on and off independently. For this, I just switch the math nodes to mix RGB nodes set to multiply. And now we have the factor. Now this could be over here. Our setup works exactly like the one I was used to in Maya, but why stop the fun here? I've always found this way of working a bit awkward since you have to fiddle with two values at the same time to move your masks around, and if you accidentally set one to go over the other, it would break. Now that we have full control over what's happening, we can make it work however we want. What I use for my works is a value to set where the mask starts and a value for how long this transition should be. I do this by connecting the start value to the first socket, and for the second I add the start with the gradient amount. And ta-da! I find this approach way more comfortable. And now, while I group everything together nicely, let me leave you with just one thought. This won't make your lighting any better. Not only I've heard of both lovers and haters of using non-strictly quadratic decays in production, but there's lots of interesting ideas on these debates. One point I find interesting is that directors of photography in live-action cinema are much more constrained than CG lighters. They can't, for example, fiddle with the light decays the way we can with this setup, and they still produce gorgeous images that we CG lighters have a lot to learn from. And this, in summary, means that what makes our lighting work look great, like all things in art, it's not the tools you use, but the artistic fundamentals that should be the foundation of everything we do. But tools are fun, and besides, like in any medium in 3D, it's good to know what tools you have at your disposal to make the art that you want. And to me, the feeling of discovering the amount of tools that I thought were impossible, but are simply right there, just for everyone, I mean, it's just priceless. And that's it. Bye!